Someone said something to you once, maybe years ago, maybe in passing, maybe they don't even remember saying it, but you do. You remember the room, the light, what you were wearing, the exact tone of their voice when the words left their mouth. And tonight, for no clear reason, those words came back again, quiet, uninvited, replaying inside you like they just happened. If that feels familiar, you're not alone. There's a name for this, not a clinical one, just a true one. The words that stayed, every INFJ has them, a sentence someone said carelessly, a criticism dressed up as a joke, an offhand remark from a parent, a teacher, a friend, a stranger, someone who moved on within minutes and forgot by morning. But you carried it. You're still carrying it. And you can't quite understand why something so small has taken up so much room in you for so long. It isn't because you're weak. It isn't because you can't let go. It isn't because you're stuck in the past. It's because your mind was built to do exactly this. Let me explain what's actually happening inside you. The neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett, whose research reshaped how psychologists understand emotion, describes the brain not as a passive receiver of experiences, but as a constant prediction machine. Your mind is always building meaning, taking a sound, a facial expression, a sentence, and layering it with context, memory, and emotional weight to construct what you feel. For most people, a stray comment passes through the system quickly. It gets processed, filed, released. For you, it enters a much deeper layer because as an INFJ, your dominant function is introverted intuition, what Jung called ni. And NI doesn't take in information the way other functions do. It doesn't collect facts. It collects patterns, meanings, undercurrents. When someone says something to you, your mind isn't just hearing the words. It's registering the tone beneath the tone, the intention behind the sentence, what the person might have meant, might have felt, might have believed in the moment they spoke. You take in the whole architecture of the comment, not just the surface, and then you store it, not in the shallow part of memory that fades, in the deep part where meaning lives. This is why a sentence someone forgot in 5 minutes can stay with you for 15 years. There's more happening too. The psychologist Elaine Aron, who coined the term highly sensitive person, found that around 20% of people have a nervous system that processes stimulation more deeply than average. Many INFJs fall into this group. For a highly sensitive person, words are not just words. They are sensory events. They land in the body. They ripple through the nervous system. They activate memory, emotion, and physical sensation all at once. So when someone says something cutting, even lightly, even without meaning to, you don't just hear it, you feel it settle somewhere inside you. And that place remembers. This is not a flaw, this is a design. But here is what makes it hurt more than it needs to. The person who spoke those words has almost certainly forgotten them. They said what they said and moved on with their day. They didn't mean for it to lodge in you. They didn't think about it again. And yet you have carried their sentence, their careless, half-considered 5-second sentence through years of your life. Replayed it in the shower. Remembered it before falling asleep. Let it shape how you speak, how you show up, how you see yourself. You have given long-term residence to words that were only ever meant to be temporary. And somewhere inside, a quiet part of you knows this isn't fair. Not to them, and not to you. Let's go a little deeper. Why does your mind keep looping these particular sentences? Why these words and not others? Because NI doesn't loop randomly, it loops what feels unresolved. When someone said something that didn't match how you saw yourself, or didn't match how you thought they saw you, your intuition registered a break in the pattern, a mismatch, a moment your inner sense of reality didn't line up with what was said out loud, and your mind, being what it is, went to work trying to reconcile it, trying to make sense of it, trying to fit it into a larger meaning. So it keeps returning, not because you can't let go, but because a part of you is still trying to understand something that was never fully explained. The problem is, most of the time, there's nothing to understand. The person wasn't being deep. They weren't sending a coded message. They weren't revealing a hidden truth about who you are. They were just talking, distracted, rushed, insecure, projecting, tired. The words meant almost nothing to them, but your mind treated them like they meant everything. Some of what you're carrying was never yours to carry. I want you to sit with that for a moment. The criticism that shaped how you see your body, the comment about your voice, your laugh, your quietness, the thing a parent said when they were exhausted, the remark a friend made when they were jealous, the sentence a teacher spoke without thinking. These were not verdicts. They were not truths. They were passing weather in someone else's inner world, and you took them as forecasts of your own. You didn't do this because you're broken. You did it because you were paying attention, because you take language seriously, because your mind treats what people say as meaningful, and that is a beautiful thing, even when it costs you. So how do you begin to set these words down? Not by forcing yourself to forget. That doesn't work for a mind like yours. Instead, by naming what happened quietly, without drama, you can say to yourself, this sentence was said by someone who was not thinking carefully. It landed in me because my system takes words in deeply. That doesn't mean the sentence was true. It means I was listening. You can also ask yourself a different question. Not, why does this still hurt? But, whose voice is this, really? Because so often, the words that loop inside you are not in your voice. They are in someone else's. A parent's tone, a partner's phrasing, a stranger's careless verdict. And once you can hear the voice as theirs, not yours, something shifts. The words start to feel less like a truth you're stuck with, and more like a message someone handed you that you can finally hand back. You don't have to keep everything that was said to you. You are allowed to return the words that don't belong in your life. There is no rush here. This is slow work. Words that lived in you for 20 years don't leave in one evening, but they can loosen. They can lose their grip. They can become something you notice from a distance instead of something you feel from the inside out. Your mind kept these sentences because it was trying to protect you, to learn, to understand, to keep you safe from being surprised by the same wound twice. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to thank quietly and then release. The words that stayed did not stay because they were true. They stayed because you were listening deeply in a world that often speaks carelessly. That difference between your depth and their carelessness is not your burden to fix. It is simply the shape of being someone like you, and you are allowed to set down what was never yours to carry. If this gave you language for something you've held quietly for a long time, you're welcome to stay a while. Subscribe if you'd like more evenings like this one, a quiet place for deep minds.